So the today's topic is IP collaboration or patent collaboration. Considering the time constraint, we have decided to squeeze our discussion, and we'll quickly open the discussion for audience to ask the questions. So basically, when we talk about patent collaboration, everyone is aware of IP collaboration, patent collaboration, so I'll not go into the concept. But what happens is usually any mid-size or big-size company or even small-size company usually have a thought process of inventing something, go for application, get the grant, and keep the rights or royalty or everything with them rather than sharing the rights with other applicant or co-applicant or assignee. But however, what even for last 15 years, this is my perspective, being working with so many companies, is that what we observed is there are number of patents increasing year by year, and which actually leading to number of litigations and lots of big giant companies facing this issue with the litigation cost and overlapping of the technology, overlapping of the inventions. If I talk about the chemical companies, most of the companies, when they supply raw material, and they usually go for protection in terms of patent filing, and then they go for licensing. This is the typical route. And other companies, they go for licensing, they go for compulsory. I think Mike has something issues. Oh, some companies then try to go ahead with the licensing or compulsory license or wait for the patent to exhaust. So in turn, what happens is the company who is developing the raw material, unless and until that raw material is converted into end product, most of the time your raw material, though have been protected with the patent, you have created monopoly, but sometime it happens the technology doesn't grow or doesn't get commercialized, and sometime it happens unless and until final product is successful, it's very difficult to get the value for your raw material or the inventions related to basic molecule or the ingredient or per se. So that's how the companies even tried for patent pool in certain technologies. But as I said, still, though big companies having the research and R&D system as well as having facility, researchers, everything, still they would like to go for a collaboration. I'll ask Sagar to give you the benefits and advantage related to global collaboration, IP collaboration.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you very much for kind introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Like Prashant just mentioned that I am from Hero MotoCorp. Hero MotoCorp is a two-wheeler manufacturing company. And having spent quite a long time in automotive industry by now, earlier with Mahindra & Mahindra and now with Hero MotoCorp, I feel somewhere that my thoughts and my views on today's topic, that is collaborative IP, would come basically from my experience, whatever I have in the field of automotive industry itself. So I'm not very sure whether they will map on other part of the industries as is. So I thought it is prudent on my side to just give some soft disclaimer. And now jumping back to today's topic, that is collaborative IP or collaborative intellectual property. So very quickly, let's discuss what is intellectual property. So intellectual property, according to me, is a virtual word. It's intangible form of a property. If I have to define, I would like to define it as in the form of creation of your brain, expression of your mind, or it is something which protects your artistry, your craftsmanship, your creation. Or in a nutshell, if I have to define intellectual property, I would say it's nothing more than but an idea. So if you have an idea, you own an intellectual property. Now, when I say this term idea, there is an inherent beauty associated with this term when it is talked in the context of collaboration. And I will try to put it in a very small, short and a nice story, and this story goes something like this. So let's assume that you have 1 rupee coin and I have 1 rupee coin, and we decide to collaborate, and the basic intention behind this collaboration is to exchange our properties, or the basic intention is wealth creation. And during this course of collaboration, we will do nothing, but we will only exchange our properties. That is to say, I will give my 1 rupee coin to you, and you will give your 1 rupee coin to me. Now what do you have? You still have 1 rupee coin, I also have 1 rupee coin. So collaboration in the field of materialistic wealth, there is no profit, no loss. Now let's change the plane of a discussion and assume that you have an idea and I have an idea. And again, we have decided to collaborate, and the basic intention behind this collaboration is to create or generate intellectual wealth. And during the course of this collaboration, again, we will do nothing, but we will only exchange our properties with each other. That means I will give my idea to you and you will give your idea to me. Now what has happened? Now at the end of this collaboration, interestingly, you have 2 ideas. Earlier you had only 1. I also have 2 ideas. Now what has just happened? When we have collaborated, even without putting any efforts into the collaboration, when we only exchange the intellectual property, and that's why I'm calling it as a virtual world, your intellectual asset are multiplied. So when you have crunch of resources, or you want to increase the intellectual assets, or you want to increase your intellectual property portfolio without doing anything, the best, the simplest and the cheapest way is go and collaborate, because your property is going to get duplicated immediately without doing any efforts. And it is evident that when you collaborate and when your intellectual property assets have gone up, eventually they will get into some sort of solution which eventually get into your product, and that will bring you, materialistic wealth also. And this is the beauty of intellectual property, and this is the advantage of collaboration, because without doing anything, property is getting multiplied. Very simple, if you allow me, very simple and very recent example which exciting me a lot, again from the field of automotive industry itself. There are 4 organizations, both are Japanese organizations, all 4 are two-wheeler industries, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki and Kawasaki. We cannot doubt their credibility. These are the organizations who are having their R&D capabilities since decades together. They are selling their products almost every corner of the world. They are having thousands of patents almost on every area of two-wheeler. But it is very interesting, and by the way, they are competitors to each other. Even, if you allow me to say, Yamaha and Honda, they are rivals. There are many litigations happening in Japan against each other. Despite that, they have decided, all these 4 organizations, they have decided to join hands in hand and go for a collaboration and develop a common platform for electric vehicles when it is about swappable or exchangeable batteries. Now, what is the benefit of this collaboration? It is not that they cannot develop these swappable batteries on their own. In fact, Honda and Yamaha, because I have seen their portfolio, they already have many technologies, many patents for this field, swappable battery. But they have decided, because somewhere they have realized that if you don't do together, the cost of the infrastructure development nationwide for this electric vehicle swapping battery would make their business non-viable or inviable. So what is the point? Is that when you see there is a potential, when there is a potential where everyone is on an equal level, and there are ideas with both the parties, the best way to reduce the cost by virtue of increasing your intellectual assets without doing much of a thing is the collaboration. So I think collaboration is beautiful.
Very rightly said, Sagar. When we heard quickly about the benefits and advantages of collaboration IP, let's hear some downsides or drawbacks of collaboration IP from Abhishek.
So thank you, Prashant. Yeah, I think just before getting into the disadvantages or downsides of collaboration, let me say one thing. I mean, collaboration will definitely keep happening. There are a lot of advantages. Sagar already discussed on those. But let us first understand what are the drivers. The major and drivers depends on the industry type also. Industry type, who is the company, between whom we are getting into the collaborations. All these are important factors to keep in mind. If there is a win-win proposition for which we are collaborating, it will definitely be success. The factors will be much higher in that case. Now, what happens in normal scenario, when you get into a collaboration, everything is very good. You know what you are going to do. But after some time, when you are into the phase of development, you suddenly realize that, okay, fine, so I have developed something. Party A has developed something which is really great, and they do not really want to share everything to party B. The same case might happen in case of party B also. So those will be the conflicting areas which are really tough to manage, and then you get into a bitter taste of IP management. Then comes who is bringing in much more value. Then you get into this revenue sharing, who should get more revenue. So all this dirty game starts at a later stage and not really upfront. So that is one disadvantage. Now, each and every disadvantage, there is a different way how to manage that, but I'll be concentrating only on the disadvantages. Second thing is, in a particular company, when you are building your own portfolio, you are generating lots of knowledge. Now, in this case, when you will be asked to do some piece of it and somebody will be doing some piece of the other part, you might not get all the knowledge. Your knowledge base that you will build might not be really complete. In some cases where collaborations might be really successful, where supplier-driven innovations happens. And that's a win-win proposition, and that's how it's happening. Their knowledge sharing happens in a proper way, and those are the successful cases. Another important thing, when there are collaborative environments, there could be knowledge leakage. So keeping confidentiality is a big deal which sometimes get lost. So these are the three main disadvantages what I can see. And another one to put, the basic thing is, say today we have two-party agreement, and after someday we want somebody else to come and join. That creates another important issue. One party might not agree to it, another party might be agreeing to it. So basically managing those hassle is one of the important disadvantages of getting into collaborations. Thank you.
Okay, Madhav, do you have any similar thought or any example wherein collaboration failed?
Yeah, I'll start with the example that Sagar shared. So the 4 companies in Japan are coming together to actually collaborate. That's a great example, right? And if you see this kind of collaborations, and if you really study kind of collaborative IP in early 20th century, from 1910 till 1950, this I think did happen, okay? But that was in the manufacturing industry. Now what we are seeing more is actually more in the IT kind of industry, right? So it is industry-wise practice. It may not be easy to replicate that model into biotech or maybe chemistry industry. Now, so there are different names for these, like patent pools, alliances, standard setting organizations come together actually, and these are all knowledge sharing organizations. But if you see, again, there is one good example, there is a RFID consortium where 20 companies have put 1200 patents together. Obviously, they don't file infringement suits against each other, and there is a better standard development that is happening because of their consortium. So there are surely some great examples, okay? And then as my peers said, there are some advantages and disadvantages. Some advantages that may not be discussed are like complementaries, right? So there is a complementary development by multiple companies there. One of the advantage that I really see happening in that Japanese two-wheeler case is actually they are making one unit where anybody's product can fit. Now that is going to help the sustainability of the world, right? You see, chargers are different for say Android, Apple, right? And then the moment it is actually not working, we have to get a unique one. And then if he has a Apple phone and I have an Android phone and he forgets it at home, he cannot charge it actually in the office. So there is that usability is not there. So these problems would get sorted if actually more companies come together. Okay. Disadvantage side, actually I have some bias in this case. I feel that there are more cases, or there could be more cases of holdups by some big players in that consortium or the patent pool, or there could be free riding, that let these three people develop, I will just enjoy whatever they develop, right? That is a possibility that I see. And then any anti-competitive practices that these players do, they would be at the cost of the customer. Right? I think these are main three disadvantages that I see. Okay? But any such arrangement has to be fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory. I have one example to share with you, probably all of you would know, and that is a Rockstar Consortium. And this consortium was actually between big players like Apple, Microsoft, Research in Motion, Sony, and Ericsson. They got Nortel's patent portfolio, high auction portfolio of 4.5 billion. In that they got 6,000 patents, and they formed this company called Rockstar. There were 31 people with 8 lawyers in that. And the only job of this was finding licensing opportunity, or rather suing other organizations who could be infringing, including Google in that, okay? And then see how I can actually get more money or benefit out of this, patent pool that this company actually got from Nortel. After a few years, they actually created another company or sold the portfolio to RPX Corporation, where they actually gave only 4,000 patents out of those 6,000, and cost of that 4,000 patent is only 980 million. So you can see approximately 3.5 million was the cost, 3.5 billion was the cost of those 2,000 patents which they distributed among themselves. Now, whether it's a good for them or bad for others, I won't comment, but this is one example where patent pool really helped the companies which came together, but then it did not really help the others. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhav. I think the audience is listening more like after Madhav's thought is like a negative thought of downfall of collaboration. I have some big examples to share with you about the positive collaboration. Okay, but before that, I think let's hear from Ashish about what are the ways or best practices to handle such collaboration, or the best industry practices so far. He can comment on it.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. I would talk more from the industry that I come from, which is the chemical setup. Madhav spoke about the patent pools and trawls and how aggregation of IP happens to do some objectives. But I think the collaboration positive impacts that were talked about by the fellow panelists are the ones which individual companies look for. Correct. The ultimate idea is to grow my revenue, my business, make more money, at the same time reduce my costs. So collaboration with different companies is certainly a way to reduce cost, make sure that I don't reinvent the wheel. If somebody is good at doing something, then I make sure that I utilize that, and I'm good at doing something, then I bring that to the pool. So that's how we look at collaboration at Dow. Of course, you need to be very, very careful when you're collaborating. The first and foremost, you should be clear about why you want to collaborate. For what's your business reason, what's your objective to collaborate, and with whom in the value chain you're going to collaborate. We are a B2B company, we're not a B2C company. So with whom we are going to collaborate is utmost important. Am I going to collaborate with a tier 1 supplier who is going to buy my finished product and then probably modify that further and then sell it to the end customer or OEM? Or am I directly going and selling my product to the OEM who probably has all the capabilities, they're backward and forward integrated as well? So, or am I going to collaborate with a research institute for fundamental research and develop or commercialization purposes? Or I have a problem which I'm not able to address, somebody else has already addressed that problem, so I want to bring that solution in and then go to the market, and how these things will happen. So make sure that your objectives are clear and you clearly understand with whom you're going to collaborate. The next step is make sure that you have all the right agreements and terms and conditions in place when you're going to do this collaboration project. So I'm talking one step before the IP is being generated, correct? So you need to clearly define what's your background IP, correct? So background IP, all the rights associated with the background IP are going to rest with you and not with the company or the institute with whom you're going to collaborate. Same holds true for them. we also need to forecast and see what exactly can happen down the line in the future once the collaboration project is also over. How things are going to be utilized. Are we going to work in future on the same thing? Then what happens if I come up with a modified version of a product which was initially developed using collaboration? So how that IP rights are going to play in future also needs to be thought about before you actually are thinking about collaboration. Second, practical aspects like where are going to file? If I'm collaborating with Government of India has their own terms and conditions, but they don't want to file, for example, in China, and as a company I want to file in China. Who's going to bear the cost? Who's going to bear the cost of litigation? What happens in terms of revenue which I'll generate if I try and sell my product in China? What kind of royalty agreements and terms and conditions you want to put in? So all these practical aspects need to be actually thought about and put in place before you're going to do any collaboration, correct? These are very, very critical aspects, and it will lead to bitterness later on in case things don't go in the right direction. At the same time, before you also go and do the talks of collaboration, make sure that all your communications are documented before the agreements are signed. We've had cases where we are working with a collaborative partner, we're trying to develop and think about solutions, and later on we find that they already have filed a patent. And then it becomes all the more challenging for you to go back and get yourself introduced into them as an owner again. If you do not have anything in documentation, it becomes very, very challenging for you to prove that you actually contributed to the invention which they have already patented. So these are some of the practical aspects that you need to be careful about. Collaboration is all great. We are all there to collaborate, learn from each other, gain, but make sure that at least from a company perspective, the business interest comes first. So I need to make sure that I safeguard myself to the largest possible extent. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. What Ashish has mentioned rightly, the agreements, term and condition, it may be a cooperation agreement or it may be a joint development research agreement or IP agreement, always the clauses. And sometimes I have observed that sometimes the time invested in actual product development is less compared to drafting the agreements with another company, because again you have to see the, as Ashish mentioned, background IP, forward IP, joint venture IP, and then future clauses about licensings and who will own the intellectual property for forward IP as well as joint IP. What are the terms, conditions? It's like really a tough job. So sometimes these agreements takes 2 years, 3 years to actually come into reality. Having said that, I'll give a quick example of a positive and I'll tell you why the company went for a collaboration rather than actually going for a conventional way of protecting a material and then going for a licensing. One example, a very famous example, BASF invented one polymer material which is like expandable thermoplastic polyurethane, which is having thermopolyurethane properties as well as foam property. So that material actually has high flexibility, resilience property, and it was like more elastic in nature, more resistance for abrasion, and then it has a bouncing action and all that. And then there was a question to all the IP people, rather than we protect first raw material and cover the subsequent application claims in our patent application as an independent application or independent claim, sorry. Then the thought was like, we may cover different application or for the sake of paperwork, we can cover that claim, okay? This polymer containing XYZ product. But at the end, what happens is technology never develop, or wherever we try to develop that different application, we have certain limitation of development or success, or we have just a trial case, but we may not have the facilities to actually test and eventually enter into the market, which will give a product which is successful and gain the profit out of it. So what we or the BASF did is they find out the application area and they tie up. First, same material they tried with Adidas company, and they help Adidas company to launch the shoes called as a Boost, and that has a shoe sole containing this particular polymer material, which help their runners to reduce the energy and they can run more because of this bouncing action and lightweight material. Similarly, then BSF enter into another collaboration with a company called as Ergon, which are into bicycle things, and then they develop a saddle which will absorb the pressure of the body weight as well as the land, as well as wherever the cycle is moving. And then third collaboration was related to, I would say, there is a company called Dunlop who develops the rackets for tennis, and they use this, with the collaboration, they use this plastic, thermoplastic, or I would say this expandable thermoplastic, so that it helped them to increase the speed of ball, or when it hits, racket hits the ball, or rapid bouncing action. And with this success, if I give the maybe some figure, probably Adidas was able to sell almost 10 million shoes with this technology, and eventually BSF also, benefited out of it. So there is always, a positive side of collaboration. As Ashish mentioned, we need to really be careful. What is the scope of collaboration with Adidas? What is the collaboration scope with Dunlop? Or what is the collaboration scope with my Ergon bicycles? How much time we have, or we should directly start the questions? Gargi? Okay, we'll open the forum for the audience to start. Yeah.
So I heard the discussion and the collaboration, what you are talking about between B2B, businesses to businesses. Okay, now first and foremost, I mean, the collaboration can happen between B2C also, right? Now, now how many companies, I mean, we have policy for everything, right? For health, safety, environment, for, ethics and all. How many, actually you can tell me how many Indian companies or any global companies are putting really some sort of, information that they are open to collaboration, first and foremost. The second part, we see a lot of, I mean, this is my personal experience, when because somebody comes to know, oh, I work in, intellectual property, they immediately ask, some inventor, oh, will your company will, encourage me, or will look at my invention, will buy my patent. Now, how do you answer this question? Because I find it really difficult. And how do you think on this collaboration? Thank you.
Maybe I can take a. I think. Hello. Yeah. I think what you're talking about is more of maybe towards open innovation or doing things in that collaboration manner so that I can foster more innovation or develop frugal innovation that happens at the grassroots level or at the university level or at the individual level. Is that correct? Yeah, anything. Yeah, I mean, so for example, we don't necessarily put it out on our website that we are open for collaboration, but we do.
No, usually if you just let me interfere, if you look at the may not be with the companies who's having small portfolio or they are still not open for open collaboration, but if you look at the big companies, even if you refer Siemens or Procter & Gamble or Unilever or BSF, sometime in some area, or sorry, in some area as well as in some time frame, they will post on their website or do marketing wherein they are open for collaboration, and they will also mention the technology where they are seeking the partners. And we have examples wherein 20 small startup companies have come together with BSF and develop a product wherein BSF felt, okay, 20 can only go ahead and develop a product. So it's all about the getting the right information from the right resource, and then it's other way around. Rather than you want to collaborate, you need to see what the company is offering for collaboration, and if you have that expertise or you have solution, you need to probably approach that company.
Yeah, I think he rightly said, when we talk of cooperation from B to C, because when it is from A to A, that is among companies, that's a cross-licensing. That is through cross-licensing, both have got some product which is rather of help to each other, which in a tangible manner adds value to their business, and it has a monetizing capacity. What he's referring to, if at all somebody has a product, patent, want to sell, patent is a product which is sellable. It is sellable only if it has got tag in respect of adding value to the business, not otherwise. It's not in respect of quantity, but in a qualitative terms, how it can add value to the business. Then only it will be something which will be acceptable. For example, let me tell you, IBM itself has got a business vertical for out-licensing. In 2010, the revenue out of this business vertical was $2.4 billion. And if you look at Nokia as a live example, they could survive only because they had a patent portfolio which had some price tag, and they could survive. Therefore, I personally feel collaboration can be more through cross-licensing among company to company. What you are referring to, the company collaborated with each other. This is nothing but cross-licensing, because they could not rather practice each other's unless until there's an agreement between them for cross-licensing.
Yeah, I understood your point. I'll take up this question. See, what happens is, what you referred is cross-licensing. I'll not comment on your value and everything. When it comes to cross-licensing, for example, BASF or Dow Chemical always have a supplier agreement. For example, they will prepare a raw material related to, let's say, it can have application in the cosmetic industry or any home care application. Or BASF has an automobile catalyst which can be used by maybe Ford or maybe Audi by VW Group for their exhaust gas system to control the emissions. But what happens over the time, both the companies separately file a patent applications. For example, BASF is filing application for a catalyst, and they also cover the system, exhaust system comprising the catalytic converter comprising this catalyst. And Ford, though we are supplying the same material to Ford for which is compatible for their engine, they also eventually also aware of their exhaust system, so they file a patent application for exhaust system, as well as their research team, because of their engine and catalyst understanding, they also file a patent application for a catalyst composition. So what happens, though BASF has a cross-licensing or licensing or even exclusive license for Ford, and the terms and everything is in picture or in place properly, and we are supplying and getting royalty from Ford, what happens eventually, there is a lapse of invention, overlapping of the invention, as well as there is a litigation. And we have seen Ford or maybe UMI or maybe Johnson Matthey, to that extent, they have, though they have a license, cross-license with BASF, they have filed so many post-grant oppositions or oppositions in Europe and US. The reason being, if they succeed in litigation, they can down the value of royalty or dilute the terms and conditions of the cross-licensing. So this is what the scenario happening over the time. That's why the companies are going in a different direction of collaboration IP, wherein at least they can save a litigation and whatever the drawbacks of cross-license can be saved. Yeah.
There is one of the aspects, you're right, because it all depends, they'll see win and win situation, how this collaboration is either in respect to the cross-license, otherwise is help.
And of course, when we say the interest of both the parties, like let's say Ford and BASF, there is always hidden benefit of society. The reason being, it may be a forceful or it may be willingful. There is always, for example, we are in India, we have like BS6 compliance coming in 1st April. Then there are some European regulation, US regulations. So government is also taking care of consumer, indirectly implying on the business part that you have to match with this standard. And of course, apart from earning the money, we also have to have a compliance so that consumer end product user will be benefited out of this collaboration. Yeah.
Can you throw some light on industry academia collaboration in India particularly?
Like I mentioned that I can represent only my industry, but there are many such examples available. For example, Hero. Hero has one campus competition. So what we do, we normally throw the burning problem of the market to the universities, and then universities, and we don't limit to the technological inventions only. We also talk about the market innovations. So normally we throw the challenges to the university, and universities are free to participate. And then, giving the best award and something. And in fact, we are also thinking that if we happen to implement those inventions, this is under consideration, then maybe we will be giving royalties to such inventors. So it's not that it's not happening. And so far, I know even TVS is into this kind of interactions. In fact, they are having tie-ups with IITs for developing the future products. We are also having some tie-ups with IITs for particularly developing the electric vehicle related solutions, which is an emerging field in India. So it is happening. The only problem, I mean, now maybe I'm changing the dimension of the discussions, is that it is not getting surfaced properly. Because how many websites of the companies you have gone through when you are trying to investigate whether there are collaboration between OEMs or industry and academics or no? Because our newspapers are full of negativity. So go and check the websites of the industry, and you will find many such examples of successful collaborations, in fact. I hope I could answer that.
I'll just add here from Dow perspective. So Dow has an exclusive university program, correct? Not just restricted to the US, but across different regions. But the goal is we collaborate with specific universities for specific research projects. Now, so there is a completely defined program. There is an annual budget for it where we do collaborate. So in India also we have collaborated. I'll give you a past example. In erstwhile Dow Corning, my previous company, we collaborated with National Chemical Laboratory, Pune, to develop new catalysts, which was a replacement for a platinum catalyst. So that program was to the extent that the CTO flew in to meet the director of NCL, and we kicked off. The point is, so somehow some disappointment being we've not been so much successful with some of these collaborations that we have done in India.
In one of the previous conferences that I attended, I happened to meet Professor Padmavati of IIT Kharagpur. And she gave multiple examples where IIT Kharagpur is actually working with companies providing products or developing technologies with them. So there are some examples. It is just that we don't know.
Only one point I'll raise is what I face in my previous experiences. When we develop, we get very good, nice ideas, intellectual ideas, which a conventional R&D scientist who is working for 20, 30 years is not aware of. But eventually, once the project actually at a peak, the candidate is already passed out from the institute and he or she pursue his or her career, and then we are stuck. So we cannot bound that particular university or candidate to stay along for 10 years and work. So these are some disadvantages, but yes, there are, I would say, more than 100 I can give examples which are there with universities and big companies. Yeah.
A very small statement I would like to make on this very point only, because I'm also coming from academia. The irony is that we are more focused on the IP awareness part only. We limit ourselves to IP awareness. We cannot go beyond it and think about capacity building. Even if we go through the national IPR policy also, the beginning is awareness, and it's a kind of a loop which is going on like that. Only some engineering universities and such universities, they are going for some small frugal kind of innovations, but otherwise largely considering the whole situation, we are more focused on awareness part.
I agree with you, and I think this is the time we should stop getting more aware, and we should actually start acting. Enough of awareness.
One of the thing is, if you just look at some figures from the US, which are in public domain, in India, in academy, this focus on innovation is more on quantitative basis rather than qualitative basis. They believe in number, without looking at it, what it can contribute, and they have got a ready product part which is acceptable by the industry. Let me tell you, in US, in 2014 data says, products worth $80 billion were in public, which were out of research done by universities. At the same time, the job generated out of IP efforts by the universities was 3 millions. Look at this data. Look, and this money generated, which is the gift to the federal, is 1.5 times more than US federal gives to the universities for the research. This itself should be a basis on which Indian, rather government or academia should look at it and make policies accordingly. Not quantitative basis projects, but qualitative basis projects.
So we
Looking,
agree.
understand the need of the industry, and accordingly, there comes a collaboration into game. There comes a collaboration into rather
Quickly
in
tell
a
you,
big way.
Indian Patent Office even started one policy wherein they go to school, conduct a IPR awareness, and they will pay 15,000 to school. But the problem is, I really don't want to talk on negativity. It's we, right? Even India lost almost 14 lakh inventions in 2016-17 because of.
I tell you,
Let's not go
2000
into that discussion,
October
right,
2019 case study in US, one patent of a Wisconsin university, they had sued Apple, got $760 million. Recent case of September 2019. Wisconsin University had licensed their patent to a pharma company, $3.2 billion. That is the price tag, intangible property, which is much more than, I think, 10 times of this tangible, this 5-star hotel property. That is the value of the IP we are not aware of.
Yeah, I think we agree on the point that we need more examples. We need more data actually from universities and institutes in India where there are like successful collaborations, and I think then only the wheel will move forward. Otherwise, no.
Yeah, rightly said, Madhu. Okay, we'll wrap up. Thank you.